today's episode, we're building the Surfer prototype. Before I start the leveling of the frets, I check the flatness of the fretboard with a notched straight edge. Then I adjust the truss rod to get it as flat as I can. The neck is pretty flat at this point since there hasn't been any string tension just yet. I mask out the fretboard to prevent any damage to it. Here's a quick look at the frets before leveling and polishing. I mark the frets with a black Sharpie, and as I start leveling, this will tell me where I've taken off material. Once all the frets are leveled, most of the Sharpie should be gone. After my first pass, there's still a bit of Sharpie left in some places. I change my sandpaper and I go through the process one more time. Here I use a fret rocker to make sure all the frets are leveled and fix any spots that are not. The next step is the crowning. And for that I use this file called the Z file by StuMac, and it makes the process much faster. The reason for marking the frets again is to keep track of my progress. When I'm filing, I'm looking for a thin line in the middle of the fret, and that's an indication that the fret is crowned. Here the frets are all crowned, and the next step is to do some dressing. For that I use another file that's very fine, and it has a safe edge so I don't dig into the fretboard. This is done so that there are no sharp ends at the end of the frets, and that the guitar is comfortable to play. In the next step I sand the frets from 600 grit to 1000. This gets rid of any scratches from the files and smooths out the ends. After sanding to 1000, I'm ready to polish, and for that I'm using this silver and pewter polish. I apply it on and I polish the frets with a felt tip with my Dremel. Here the frets are nice and polished, but I wasn't 100% happy with the fret ends. I did put the guitar together at this point, and I thought I could do a better job at the fret dressing. So I went through the process one more time, excluding leveling and crowning. I'm much happier with the results the second time around, and the fret ends got to be this dome shape that I really like. Very smooth to the touch and very comfortable to play. The tuners I'm using are Goto, and I really like the style of these rounded buttons. They complement this model really well. I use a little bit of wax on the screws to make sure they go in nice and smooth. At this next step, I file the string slots at the nut, and for that I'm using these Hosco nut files. When determining the depth for each slot, when fretting the string at the 3rd fret, the space between the 1st fret and the string should be very small, almost paper thin. What I found out, if that space is paper thin and you're planning to use lower tunings, you will very likely get fret buzz at the 1st fret. And here I just repeat the process for each string. I add in a string tree, and this helps out with tuning stability as well as keeping the strings in the slots. Here we are at the final stage of the neck. I blow off any particles that may be on with this duster. I start with a primer filler. This is Duplicolor 2-in-1. And then I spray my color coat, which is this Galaxy Silver. This is after spraying 3 coats of clear, and for that I used Spray Max 1K Clear. I let that cure for a few days, and then I went to wet sand the headstock, and some water got in between the finish and the wood and cracked it. And this was quite a hard lesson to be learned. Something to note about 1K Clear, it doesn't build up as well as 2K, and it sprays on very thin. After that, I sprayed another 3 coats of 1K Clear and dry sanded the headstock from 1000 to 3000. Originally I was going to paint the whole back of the neck. The natural wood felt really good to play on, and that's why I only did the headstock. At this point it's sanded to 3000 and it has this semi-gloss sheen to it. And then I polish with Meguiar's buffing compound. And there was something to be done about that harsh line dividing the headstock and the neck. I definitely didn't want it to be a straight line and more of a wave. I blended it in by hand, starting with 220 all the way up to 3000, and then buffed it out. The transition now is very smooth to the touch, and it's not intrusive at all when playing. Actually, your hand wouldn't even go that far up. I use a reamer to widen the holes a little bit so that the tuners can fit. Some wax on the screws. After installing the tuners, the cracks on the finish aren't as noticeable, and the washers covered up most of them. A couple of different string trees. These are Goto, and I really like that barrel style. At this point the neck is complete. In the next stage, the build process continues with the body of the guitar. I want to thank you all for watching so far. Please subscribe for future videos. There will be many builds coming down the line, different designs and different styles. And please tune in for the next episode of this build. Take care.